Hello everybody, my name's James. Welcome to the penultimate Planet FPL Gameweek Deadline stream in partnership with FPL Team, and it's live. We are 56 minutes away from the Gameweek 37 deadline, which remember is 6 p.m. UK time. As ever, I'll be answering as many FPL dilemmas as I can between now and that deadline. Questions will be answered in order of submission. Repeat/similar questions may well be skipped. That's a message for people asking questions about Ollie Watkins. Yeah, guys, I'd probably just get him in and captain him and be done with it. Let me take you through some of the graphics before I get through the questions. So I'm rolling a transfer. Give me 2 for game week 38. I'm going Pickford, O'Brien, Collins, Vardiol, Salah, Vice, Bumo, Bowen, Rogers, Visser, Cunha, Captain Watkins, Sells, Ilanga, Kivior, and Williams in reserve. We'll see my predicted lineups, full 20 teams rotating in the bottom right-hand corner. That includes the 2 games next Tuesday night, which is guesswork. You'll see my top 10 captaincy picks that will rotate with my correct score predictions for the 10 games in this game week. The bottom ticker, you'll see all the flag players and remaining fixtures for each team. There are only 2. And above that and below me, you will see the benching dilemmas where there are 2 players together. The player with the tick is the preferred option to start. They run in order. Pages 1 to 4 also run left to right in order. You will find some goalkeeper dilemmas on page 5. I have not put David Raya on there. I would pick David Raya over all 5 of the goalkeepers that you will see on page 5 of those very dilemmas. Nothing else to announce at the moment. So smash a like, hit the sub button. It's time to get into those questions. FPL Don says, hi James, is player X, Y or Z to Watkins for a hit worth it? Everyone please now delete all your Watkins questions and like and subscribe on your way out. Thanks. The answer is probably yes, Don. Yeah. What's changed since, obviously many of you might have listened to the pod with Lee, which we recorded yesterday morning that went out this morning, was Ange Postecoglou's embargoed quotes that went out last night was like, whoa, yeah, shit, that Tottenham team's probably going to be weaker than what we'd originally expected earlier in the week. Ian PTSD says, evening James, been in bonkers day, so apologies if this is a repetitive question. Is Isak and Glasner to Watkins captain and Emery a solid shout? Cheers and hope you have a great week ahead. I'm not sure I'd bother with Glasner to Emery, bearing in mind there's no bonus for Emery. It's probably a locked in 10-pointer or so for Emery, but what's to say Palace won't just beat Wolves, so I'm not sure why I'd do that. Isak to Watkins, yes. Is there Glasner to Emery going to give you money? I can't. Isak to Watkins, yeah. I'm not sure I'd bother with the other, mate. I'd chase the bonus with Potter, guys. Tanky says, afternoon James, buy Rogers for Morgan Gibbs White. Bench KDB or buy Watkins for Isak. Bench me, buy Watkins. Guys, it's going to get really repetitive in a hurry. Hiradi says, hey James, I'm chasing rank. 1 free transfer, 7 million in the bank. Should I do Ilanga Eze to Palmer captain or Isak to Watkins? Right, next question. Maya AG says, hello James, would you recommend doing Mateta, Sarr, Isak to Watkins, Palmer and Evan Nilsson bench for free? The other option is Mateta to Watkins and having free transfers next week. Thank you. I would probably just do the Watkins and have the freeze for next week. Hasselbank is wins. His honest opinion, if Tottenham win Europa League, do you have any attachment to this group of players and manager? Do you feel a bond with them like you did with Poch's team? Long road back if you lose. No, not in the same way. No, not at all. There obviously is to people like, I mean, I've been so critical of Sonny, but I would love him to win it more than any other player in that squad, right? For what he's given to Tottenham over the last decade. So yes, some, but not in the way of the Pochettino team, no. Z says, hi James, having to bench Isak, front 7 is just too good this week. Assuming the front 7 is all in your top 10 capacity, does it justify benching him? Have Raya in goal too? Well, I suppose so, mate, but I can't see it saying. Hello Robert, Alan Holohan says, would you do KDB to Saka, Captain Bumo, or Cunha to Watkins? Right, guys. Yeah, Watkins, Alan. Rory says, how's it James from South Africa? Vardy party or Beto belter? Well, Beto will probably play again in game week 38. We know that obviously Jamie Vardy won't. I think Vardy is almost a certain, as long as he doesn't get injured in the game, almost a certain kind of 85, 90 minutes, isn't he? You can see him getting that clap at the end, probably like 92nd minute sub or something. We can all foresee that. So I think for this week specifically, the preference is with Vardy, and I think that's probably your preference with your question as well. It's going to get moved on next week. That's all you got to bear in mind. Matthew Sutherland says, hi James, I hope you're good and thanks for the brilliant content. I already have Martinez, Konsa and Rodgers. Is it a -4 for Watkins worth it, or roll and move for Saka and Evan Nilsson next week for free? All I would say is, and I said this a bit on my Ask James stream on Wednesday, a lot of people say, I'm chasing. Should I buy Watkins? Right, it's the investment in him is so massive now this week that you're probably better off leaving it if you're trying to chase and just don't want to do the same thing as everybody else, right? So just bear that in mind. So when I'm saying, yeah, everyone buy him, it's, well, there is a case to go against. And in the likes of Rodgers, Asensio, there are captainable players even within the same team. Would I take a -4 from double Villa defensive to get him in? Yeah, damn right I would. Jacob Frost says, hi James, best bonus manager. I'm on triple Forest, so it doesn't feel as good going Potter. Drop Nottingham Forest defence to bench and go Potter or Hertzler. Yeah, I mean, look, if say you've got Wood, for example, you can still get the Potter bonus and Wood scores for you at the same time, right? So I get that. Me and Suj actually had this very discussion this morning about, right, take Forest players out of the team if you're going Potter potentially. Staffis, I think it's Staffis. I'm going to remember one day. Sorry, my friend. Doing Frank to Hertzler and need a -4 because I have Mateta, Murphy, Isak play 2. Thinking Isak, Watkins, but then also Mateta or Murphy have to go to buy someone better, so would be a -8. What would you do? Buy Watkins and Rodgers if I didn't have them. That's first and foremost. Look, Murphy's still good for final day. That needs that reference. Mateta less so. I think there's a strong chance Mateta won't start this week, so I'd certainly be looking to bin him personally. Isak could be useful for you 38. There is possibly a narrative here. We've all heard probably the Isak rumours that he might be carrying a problem. I do think there's a narrative here that, ironically, if tomorrow goes really well for Newcastle, sorry, not tomorrow, Sunday goes really well for Newcastle, then he might not play in Gameweek 38. So there's also a case to possibly move both forwards on. But I don't think the forward options this week are great. Like I said, Vardy, but then you're moving it on. It probably is Visser is still the best of the rest for the next two, I think, at this stage. But yeah, I'd be moving stuff on, mate. Jacob Frost says, hi James, best bonus manager on Triple Forest. It doesn't feel as good going Potter. Just done that, sorry. Chris Bruce says, hey James, wondering who you would bench from Bumo, Sade, Bowen, Rodgers, Sarr, Isak, Watkins, Haaland, captain. Thanks always, Sarr. Reluctantly, but Sarr. There's a possibility he doesn't start, right? The others are near certainties, mate. And that includes Haaland. Burke says, hi James, on bench boost 38, which combination scores more? Van der Ven. I wouldn't be convinced that he'd play 38, mate. Zabani and Watkins versus Saliba, Kirkes, Evan Nilsson and +4. The first allows me to captain Watkins this week, and both scenarios include Saka. Hang on. But what's the question here, mate? Is it like which scores more over the first two? Or is it relevant to that's what your bench is in 38? I mean, you're not benching Evan Nilsson in 38. You're not benching Watkins this week. So I'm not really sure what the question is, mate. I mean, the fact you're going to get 2 games of Saliba over probably none of Van der Ven, mate, as it stands, and Kirkes being a better option than Zabani. Like, genuinely on this one, it's probably the Evan Nilsson option, mate. Chewy FPL says, hi, James. Would you sell Morgan Gibbs White to Rodgers or roll the transfer? Sell. Sean G says, hi, James. Hope you're good. I'm thinking of KDB to Saka/Palmer. If I do, is it worth taking a hit to move Glasner? If so, who to? Smash a like, peeps. Hit, no. Look, I've backed Wolves to win Tuesday night, but that's half in the mind. I really think Palace have got a strong chance tomorrow. And if they win, they're probably going to be all over the place on Tuesday, understandably. And how's the mentality going to be Tuesday, even if they get beat, particularly if it's in unlucky circumstances? Difficult to say, right? That game is really tough to predict. With City, you know City still needs to get a result Tuesday. The Palace-Wolves game's like, fucking hell. Good luck. But could they turn up and beat Wolves? Yeah, absolutely. Wolves won 6 games in a row against the 6 worst teams in the league. Played 2 good teams since and not scored and lost twice. And Palace fall into the category that's much better than the bottom 6. So a hit to move him on. For me, it'd be a no, mate. In terms of Saka v Palmer, were it me, I'd be going Saka at this point in time. Ben Wilgood says, hi James, Sarr to Asensio or Isak to Watkins. Would move Asensio to Kluivert next week. Yeah, you're answering your own question, mate. Watkins. Frankie says, James, I have Isak and Marmoush this week. Do you prefer Marmoush to Watkins, giving me Isak, Bowen and Kluivert in 38, or Isak to Watkins, give me Marmoush, Saka and Rodgers in 38. Well, like, I don't know if Marmoush is going to play Tuesday, and there's 2 games before City play next Sunday, so the easier call here is to move on Marmoush, I think. FPL Don says, would you get Vardy or Beto for this game week, not needed next week? People seem to be ignoring the last game at Goodison narrative for Beto and going Vardy party. I mean, would I get either? No, I could get either for Cunha. It's not entertained either because I think both are shit options for 38. And I don't foresee either of those 2 players. Oh, is Vardy or Beto going to get a hat trick this week? You're probably just looking for the return, aren't you? So, listen, again, the way you're lacing your question, Don, you're lacing it almost like you want me to say Beto, right? Go Beto, mate. Frederick Hertz says, don't want to start Isak, but he's arguably my best attacker. So, Mateta and Marmoush to Watkins and Visser for a -4. My attack would be free Brentford. Yeah, all that. Yeah, I'd do it, yeah. The one and only Smith, what are the positives and negatives of Captain Palmer this week? Positives, playing potentially rotated Manchester United team. Negative is not Ollie Watkins. I need to make up 30 points over the next 2 game weeks on rivals. That's your big pro. Go for it. He will largely still be a pretty big differential, Cole Palmer. JP says, hi, bud. 2 free transfers. Who would you bring in for Mateta and Sarr? 6 million in the bank. I mean, JP, can I Watkins and Rodgers? Watkins and Boomer. Like, who you got, mate? Come on. Verticus says, hey, James, struggling with this one. Should I sell either Cunha or Isak to Watkins for free? If not, can just roll and move one of them to Evan Nielsen next week. Yeah, this one's brutal. One of my patrons asked me this afternoon. It's so close. Because there's a strong case for Isak 38, but there's also the warning I gave. And I don't think Cunha's like a certain starter either. Now, Cunha's got the better fixture this week, in theory. I think it's chop Isak. Very reluctant to do that. And you remember, many of you were here on the deadline stream of 35. I remember me being like selling him at the death for Watkins and being like, oh, what have I done? Glad I've done it now. It looks a better move now. It's probably Isak. Very reluctantly, mate. Ottoman says, hey, James, Watkins and Beto for a -4. If not Beto, then who? Visser, if you don't own. But the forward alternatives ain't great. I don't know what you're selling, mate. Alpha says, is Eze going to play? Tomorrow? Yeah, 100%. Tuesday? God knows, mate. Look, if the game goes to extra time, they're all questionable, aren't they? Right? Could end up being Devaney and Kamada behind Nketiah, right? It's impossible to say. But what I would say is the downgrade is so steep from an Eze to any of them alternatives. If he's in decent condition for Tuesday, I would say yes, he plays. And also, there is the narrative for Palace that they want to beat their record points total in the Premier League, which they can do. And with Liverpool final day, they're obviously going to be thinking that Tuesday's their chance. But they're totally focused on tomorrow. Tuesday ain't going to get a fault till tomorrow's gone, mate. Robert Pugsy says, Salah out for Neto from -4. Free hit 38 to 1 week punt. Chase him. I don't like that. I wouldn't, even if you say I'm chasing for free, I wouldn't give you the thumbs up to that, Robert. There's a narrative that Brighton might need to chase the game and win Monday night. No. I get it, you're chasing. I wouldn't personally be considering taking Salah out at this moment. I get it, his form's not great. Brilliant. Yeah. We might all be sitting here wanting to captain him next week. I wouldn't be taking him out, mate. Chris Koo says, hi, James. I have 3 Villa, but no Watkins. 1 free transfer. Would I sell Martinez or Conser to then do Mateta to Watkins captain from -4? Otherwise, the armband is on Bumo. Cheers. Well, the only reason not to do that, Chris, would be if you genuinely believe Bumo's the best captain. I suggest the fact that you're answering that question probably means that you don't. I get it done, mate. Scott Parker says, sell Isak to Watkins and do Saka and Evan Nielsen in from -4, or roll this week and do for free next week. I'm assuming the then do Saka and Evan Nielsen, Scott, is for next week, which is obviously perfectly reasonable, right? So, but yeah, get Watkins in, mate. Guys, come on. Tanky says, thoughts on Rodgers versus Watkins? I think Rodgers will hurt us. Yeah, I'm saying that's probably near enough the best other midfielder to buy this week, right? Simply Sesh says, hey, James, would you do Diaz to Palmer captain or Isak to Vardy/Watkins? Guys, it's the same answer. CMP says, on bench boost, with Moyes passing O'Brien fit, would you move Dean or Nico Williams to Cucurella? I like Chelsea this week. Dean is higher upside, but don't know if he starts. Yeah, that's the danger with Luca Dean. It's probably not the sort of one you're going to get info for, but a reminder to our patrons who are watching in live, thank you as always for your support, and please drop me a tag on Slack if we have got any early team news from tonight's 2 games or any relevant information that might benefit for people on the weekend. Pissing in the wind, guessing this Tottenham team tonight, mate. Here's what I'd say, CMP. Fine. I obviously can't see the rest of your defenders, but I would much rather. I don't think any team keeps a clean sheet in both weeks, right? I would much rather you focus your transfers on attacking players. Someone like a Nico Williams is fine this week, right? It's not like Forest aren't capable of going to West Ham winning 1-0, 2-0, right? I wouldn't personally, unless you have to, bother with defensive transfers at this moment. Focus on getting the best attacking players. If you've got them, fine. Ian from Melbourne says, hello, James. Start 2 of KDB, Semenyo or Eze. Huge game Wednesday night. Massive for both clubs. Forest Green versus Southend United. What's your score prediction? Up the Shrimpers. Hit that like 2-1 Southend. Ian, good luck. Brilliant comeback last night, pal. I think it was last night or the night before. Can't remember now. But brilliant result. Up at, where was you? Rochdale, I think it was, weren't you? Great result. I'd bench Semenyo from that lot, mate. If you've got KDB or Eze, I think that there's, if you've got like an unbelievable front 8, there is a case to bench one of them. Eze I've already spoken about and said I think he'll play. KDB is, I've no idea. But if you've got him, if you've got KDB versus I'm worried he might not start, I'm going to play Semenyo at City instead. Just play KDB, mate. And similar with Eze. And if neither of them play, fine, you got Semenyo in instead. KDB, unless he gets injured tomorrow, he's obviously going to appear. The nervous bit with that is obviously the fact that he could be a one-pointer. It's probably the same case for Eze, where he is sub. I'm sure he would probably come on. But those two players can shoot for the stars for you, mate. And I would start them if I owned them versus a Semenyo. D-Taff says, hi James, my 8th attacker is Marino. I had 3 Palace, including Mateta, and a couple of City defence. With Konsa and Van Heck on the bench. Priority transfers, Mateta, but to who? I already have Watkins, Visser. Yeah, that's not easy. At all. You could go Evan Nilsson, and then possibly saves you your transfer 38, but it doesn't. I don't know, something like Wood's still going to be alright for you for the 2. Probably that. If you force me to buy another forward, thinking about both weeks, it'd probably still be that, maybe, at this stage. It's not great. You're going to move Mateta either way in 38. I just think if you go Mateta to Evan Nilsson, you can then focus on something else, probably. But it would also be a case just to leave it. I do think Nketiah will probably start on Tuesday. What are you expecting of Evan Nilsson at City? Not a lot. Like, he's doing more in it and just going, I'm going to hold off this, maybe. Steamroller says, Pedro Neto or Yankuba Minter for last 2 game weeks. If you have to do that, mate, I would go Neto. Nectarius94, chasing the mini league, -4 to bring in Watkins or Captain Haaland and bring in Asensio Chelsea mid. If you're under that circumstance, mate, and you are chasing, and it's going to cost you a -4 to take away the best differential captain in the game this week and move it to what is now the template one, that doesn't make sense to me. You told me you're chasing. This is relevant. If you're in that position and you've got Erling Haaland sitting in your team, I would captain him. This time yesterday, when I'd set up the graphics, I had Haaland top. It's only changed off of Postacoglu's comments last night. Lee Sherwood says, Marmoush, Mateta to Watkins, Visser for -4, just Mateta to Watkins. I'd do both, to be honest. D.80 says, hi James, Haaland to Watkins captain this week, Minter to Saka next week, or roll this week and go Haaland to Evan Nilsson to Saka next week. Again, particularly if you're chasing, I'd be very tempted to hold. I think, as per the discussion on Clashers Correspondence yesterday, Erling Haaland, unless he gets an injury setback tomorrow in the final, I'm pretty confident will start again on Tuesday. We have to get over this. He's a different beast. If he's fit, Guardiola plays him. End of story. City need to win on Tuesday night, particularly obviously if Villa and Chelsea win, as most of us would expect to do this evening. If you're sitting there with Haaland and do not have Watkins, it's the one where I would be very, very tempted to stick with Haaland and crack on. Ollie Watkins has never let anyone down before when he's been captained by everybody, has he? Remember that Sheffield United game last year? Actually, Sheffield United are probably better defensively than my reserve team. Next up is Zem. Says, start Rodgers or Isak? Unbelievably, the answer is Rodgers, mate. You dirty slot says, please help. Salah, Bowen, De Bruyne, Bumo, Rogers, Cunha, Watkins, and Visser. Bench 1. Cunha. I don't think he's a certain starter this week. I do think he'll start. I don't think it's certain. Why was he brought off with half hour to go? I've been saying it all week. Why was he brought off with half hour to go last week when they were losing 1-0? No one's given me the reasoning for why they think that happened. Just, oh, okay, yeah. He nearly got sent off, didn't he? Is that the reason? They were concerned he was going to get sent off? Maybe that's the reason. But nobody's been able to yet offer me kind of, yeah, that's why it happened. He's going and he's leaving. Is there a chance he doesn't play? It has to be. Has to be a chance that that's a possibility. Next up is Adam M. Afternoon, James. Who would you punt this week between Neto, Asensio, and McNeil? Villa player. Patrick Kluivert. Use free transfer and Arseman. Would you do Isak to Watkins -4? Yeah. Dan Butler. Who would your solution for Spurs number 10 on Wednesday be? Have a great weekend, mate. I'm not going to talk about it now. You can fucking pay for it. Recommend yesterday's Talking Tactics that did one of our patrons, Alex Trembath. It's available for advanced and intermediate plus tier patrons. I'm not going to explain the reasoning, but I would go Richarlison. It won't be Richarlison. Ethan Justin says, hi Jimbo, start and die or Marmouche. If you got well, I think the only thing is Ndiaye didn't start at Fulham, right? Yeah, as you're saying, didn't start last game. Yeah. I'd go Marmouche, I think. Thing with Ndiaye, though, if he starts, he's probably on the pens, isn't he? That's a tough one, that. You're gutted if Ndiaye don't start on Marmouche. I have got Ndiaye predicted to come back in, and McNeil, by the way. He played Southampton, man. Ndiaye. Fantasy Fluker says, evening, James. I just want to say good luck, as you would have had so many sell Isak for Watkins questions. Thank you. Appreciate it. Listen, when you sell a beast like Isak, you know what that risk is. Steve says, hi James, you might all be buying him back to captain him next week. Steve says, hi James, the last time I can watch live this season, so just want to say thanks and good luck to both you and Spurs. Thank you, and to you too, Steve. Thank you for all your support this season. JD914 says, happy sunny Friday, James. Start Diaz for double City defence or Konsa. I'd go to City, actually, yeah. 1877 WWFC says, who do I bench from Rogers, Eze, Isak when my midfield is Salah, KDB, Bumo, forwards, Visser and Watkins captain? This is the sort of one where it's arguably KDB. If you've got Arsenal defence, the answer is Isak, I think. If not, jeez. Based on my predicted lineups, the answer is KDB. You asked from Rogers, Eze, Isak. So I'm going to say Eze. At least I know at this moment Isak's going to play. Has already scored at the Emirates this season. Gary Richardson says, hey James, if you get £1 for every Watkins question today, how many packs of Fox's cookies could you buy, do you reckon? Well, I'd have, because of the support of patrons, I'd have some spare money anyway, Gavin. Jordan says, Haaland and Sarr to Watkins and Palmer for a -4 and captain Palmer chasing mini league. Again, you're chasing mini league and you want to sell Haaland. I don't understand that. Just step away. What was his EO last week? 11%, right? Loads of people gambled deadline, bought him in great, wicked, fantastic, right? No one's buying him this week. No one said, oh, we'll buy Haaland. Right, so that's it. Nothing else is buying him. And his EO is going to be even less because there'll be less captaincy this week than it was last week. You're chasing. You've got Erling Haaland in your team, mate. I wouldn't be moving it under your circumstance. And actually, if I was sitting in with Haaland in with a home fixture, I don't think we're moving him anyway. Aku says, hey James, would you sell Isak for Watkins? Just kidding. Have a nice stream. Good luck. Thank you, Aku. Funny, ha. FPL World says, Luke Dean worth starting over Aaron Wan-Bissaka. The problem with Luke Dean is easy could be 1 pointer, right? And I don't mean because of Tottenham scoring a couple of goals. Well, that's always fanciest to score, I suppose. Although God knows what his situation is now without Kulusevski and Maddison and Bergvall and James Linden. And Philip Linden. Hi, Dad. Hope you're well. I'd start AW. Can I? Wan-Bissaka. Elliot, sell Cunha and Marmouche. Marmouche. Shout out Will Akbar. Hope you're well. Abdul Hamid says -4 to go Sarr, Cunha
to Saka Evanilson. Would end up benching Evanilson this week for Charlie. So it's a -4 just for Saka this week. It's a no from me, mate. Simon Baker says, James, I was right. He was last week. What a man. What a legend. Him and his tic-tacs. P.S. is Captain Watkins this week. I know exactly what he's doing because he was on Talking Tactics for me. And as I told you last week, Alex knows exactly what he's doing. Dragon Josiowski says, hiya, James. Start Raya or Sanchez. Cheers. Based on my predictions, Sanchez. Based on sensible choice, Raya. Based on my predictions, go Sanchez. Prashan says, hi, James. Isak or Elanga. Excuse me. Saliba or Bradley. Thank you. So if I say Isak, I'm not going to say Saliba. Mate. Isak and Bradley, mate. Kof Kun says, hi, James, and good luck, everybody. Likes, and more likes. But yes, smash a like, please, everybody. Doesn't cost anything. Circa 20% of you have done it. Doesn't cost anything. Truly helps. It's a free stream, everyone. Daniel Tribarak says, like the stream, boys. Thank you, Daniel. Is it Danielle with a J in? I'd love to know the pronunciation of that. Mr. Jelly99 says, good evening, James. Cooking up a chase. Eze and Mateta to Beto and Palmer. Captain -4. Shit. Lost my place in the questions. Sorry. Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't bother submitting any more if you ain't submitted yet, guys. I've got to get through 101 Watkins fucking questions, don't I? You want to go Eze and Mateta to Beto and Palmer. Captain -4. Into Sart and Elanga. To Semenyo and Martinelli, captain -4. So what, next week? Why about next week, mate? Sure, go for it, mate. FPL Uproar, yo, James, have a good weekend. You too, buddy. D.80, hope you're well. Melon Musk says, you think it's worth risking Keane? He might come on for a 1-pointer as it's his last home game. Or should I play Munoz and Konsa? I'd play Munoz. Yeah, play Munoz. I've only got on the defenders on the bench, and I know there's a few like I wouldn't leave out at all, but I've only got Vardio above him there, so I play Munoz in most situations. If you've got Michael, I certainly wouldn't buy Michael Keane just for clarity. I know he's cheap, it's 3.8 or something. If you've got him, probably play him. I mean, it's every chance O'Brien comes in, but right back. FPL Wellbeing says Isak to Watkins. Yeah, great. Next, CM Punk 2310. Boomer, Watkins, Salah are definite starts for me. Bench one of Isak, Rogers, Eze, Vissa, and Bowen. Reluctantly, Eze. Shazza Gill says, hi, James. Who would you start between Sarr and Murphy? X-Min's concerned for Sarr. Yeah, but more likely to get you to return than Murphy. So Sarr. Hanzo Hasashi says, evening from the bathroom, James. Come here to drop a like. Bye. You want me to come into your bathroom and drop a like? Wrong. Bobby96 says, hi, mate. Heading into final day, do you think Alisson and Areola could be an issue with the threat of Keller and Fabianski having farewell appearances in front of their own fans? Well, West Ham are away next week, mate, so no. We spoke about this a bit with Flappy. I think it is a possibility. There's a number. Listen, if you've got a team that's got nothing to play for next week, giving a number 2 goalkeeper a run out is a possibility, isn't it? It's reality. What's to say, different example, and one we haven't spoke of, right? Neto has been on loan at Arsenal all season, right? He's not even made an appearance in any competition to my knowledge. So what's to say that next week, if they've got second wrapped up this weekend, that they don't reward him and go, yeah, do you know what? You've been with us all year, play at Southampton. Just saying. That's not to make Raya owners shit themselves. I'm just telling you that there are circumstances like that could happen next week. Good luck with your bench boost for those in 38. Dylan says, hi, James. Guardiola and Isak to Hurtson and Watkins -4. Yeah, you're chasing the bonus, fine. Colin Johnson, I would start Raya over Areola. The Blubber King says bench Enzo or Rogers or Bowen. Enzo, reluctantly. Martin says Isak to Watkins or Glasner to Potter. Watkins. Hemdog says, if you found out Dean was starting, would you throw him in for a Munoz or a Ruben or a Mateta, as in into the starting 11? No. Greg says, hi, James. What about triple captain Watkins? Yeah, sure. Crack on. Yeah, it now looks strong. This is the point. With Angie's comments last night, it now looks stronger than it did at the start of this week. I genuinely thought Tottenham would go strong tonight. I think they've been spooked by the Kulusevski injury. If it's a strong team, most Tottenham fans are now going to lose their shit, considering Angie's comments last night, because he's basically prepped them to say, I'm not picking a strong team, lads. So, look, if you want to triple captain Watkins against something that might look something like Region, Davis, Danso, Gray, with Kinski in goal, possibly. Yeah. Yeah. Plus that EO is now massive. Captaincy is way more likely to be split next week now than it is this week. Brunson says, no question this week, but thanks for all the analysis and advice throughout the season. Best in the business. Have a great summer break. Thank you, mate. I need to tell my patrons what I'm doing first. There'll be a short break coming up, but there'll be podcasts this summer. Don't you worry about that. Mark says, must choose two between Kivior, O'Brien, Murillo and Robinson. Please help. The first two. Shani Rassel says, Big James, mate, need the biggest noggin rub for luck today. Fell at the top 100k last week. Crying emoji. Finally got a question for you, mate. Chasing in mini league, bringing Beto and McNeil on captain. Beto, because I don't think we can look at McNeil as a certain starter, mate. Tom Armitage says, start Diaz with Vardio or Munoz. Well, Munoz is outrageous, mate. Munoz over Diaz. Might not start, but outrageous. His fitness levels are incredible as well. Melon Musk says, Isak and Sards, Evan Nielsen and Palmer captain for a hit. I have Watkins already. Again, don't get the hit element from... Okay, you're hitting in Evan Nielsen in preparation for next week because you want to take an effective -4 Palmer captain over Sar. You already have Watkins. Are you chasing? Okay, fine. If not, no. Simon B says, hi, James, on bench boost. I can't hear anything. Not that it matters because I'm just sitting here talking to myself. Hi, James, on bench boost and free hit 38. Now all I can hear is my fucking son. I'm on bench boost and free hit 38. Have triple Everton defence plus Vardio, Nico Williams. Nico Williams out for who? Tar wouldn't bother. Get a better attacking player. JS says, do you think Neto will play up top? That's what I've got in the predicted lineup. Yes. Shout out Gareth Payton. Hope you're well. Jürgen says, hello, James. Thoughts on Captain Asensio? I mean, if you're chasing, like, I really don't mind taking on that sort of punt this week. Yeah, fine. Zuby says, thoughts on Asensio captaincy, are minutes too shaky. He's an almost certain starter, but beyond 60, tough to say, isn't it? Elron Cupboard says, did Kusanov summon his inner CM Punk and call Pep a bald fraud? That was great when CM Punk said that. I'd rather have a row with Pep than The Rock, though. It was a rumour that went round. I asked Johnny about it yesterday, and he's like, I don't know. Not about whether he called him bald fraud, but I was like, what's happened to him? I don't know. Ali Boscut says, hi, James. Looking for wild, cheeky players to captain. Vardy versus Beto or Bowen, assistant manager, Brighton or West Ham manager. Good luck. I prefer Potter. Go all in. Go Bowen as well, just for the crack, mate. Shani Rassel says, I could just captain Rodgers, though, in fairness. Spurs sound like they'll be even crapper than usual tonight. Anyway, have a top weekend, you legend. Remind these freeloaders to drop a like. Drop a like. Hemdog says, Isak or Mateta for Ollie Watkins. Was initially on Mateta, but thought why not Isak? As if Toon beat Arsenal, UCL is named and he might get dropped game week 38. But instead you're left with what? Mateta at Liverpool. I'd sell Mateta, mate. Bellon Musk says bench one of Vardio, Consa, Keane and Munoz. Consa. Onion Heart 1 says bench boost 37, free hit 38. Done Isak to Watkins captain, thinking of a -4. Sells to Pickford. Don't know. Marmush to Vardy or Sade to Rodgers. Thank you, James. Wouldn't sell Sade at the moment if you've got Marmush to Vardy. And obviously, you're free hitting 38. You ain't got to worry about next week. So Marmush to Vardy, mate. David Fawn says, hello, James. Hope you're well. Isak to Watkins, Mateta and Savinho to Watkins and McNeil. Wouldn't do McNeil for -4. Ben Miller says, happy Friday, mate. Enjoy the weekend with the family. You too, buddy. Most of it spent working, by the way, because you lot need content next week. Woodstock Chris says, hi, James. Bench one from Cunha, Vita or KDB. KDB. Sean Akimola, I top 2K. Wicked. Let's give Sean a round of applause, everybody. Boom. Go, Sean. William Doyle says, Vardy yellow after he scores. Yeah, after he gets on the tractor and drives it across the pitch, mate. Rick 20 says, I'm chasing my mini league. Should I captain Palmer, Watkins or Haaland if the leader has Watkins but not the other two? That's interesting. I just thinking about, I mean, Palmer and Haaland still great differentials for you. So what are you chasing? Are you prepared for Watkins to be a loser in your book versus your opponent, and then go over the top with a Palmer or Haaland? If you're just making up with Palmer and Haaland as differentials, pretty good. But I don't know how much you're chasing down, Rick. If you're chasing down a kind of over the top 20 points or so, I'd probably take Watkins on. Less, I would just captain Watkins. The other two, again, your opponent is probably highly unlikely to go Haaland this week. Give it some thought. Alex MJ87 says, would you sell Isak or Cunha for Watkins, or hold and cap Palmer? I would buy Watkins very reluctantly, and I told you this is a coin flip, this one, probably Isak. James Lovegoes says, I wore window seat on the plane, enjoy the break, mate, well deserved. I also can get away from my dad. Love you, mate. Josh Grant says, bench bench Bowen, Rogers, Isak, Salah or Marmouche. Isak. Safe the Dean, hope you're well, mate. Marv FPL says, hi James, who is the best 4.9 million or less midfielder for this week only? Thinking Enzo, Alcaraz, Damsgaard need to play 37, bench 38. Thank you. I'm going to say Enzo Fernandez. Another Hoop says, cheers for the great content this season. Ain't no party like a Vardy party. AD Kerr says, hi James, would you prioritise Watkins or Bowen? Yeah, you know the answer, good luck. Tom Reynolds says, hi James, do you think the Villa fan view video had any effect on the volume of Watkins questions? I mean, he'd put a whole podcast out there for you. There was the Ask James stream Wednesday, and every time the summoning of fuck, we better go Watkins is just getting louder and louder, isn't it? Abdallah says, hi James, start one of Cunha or Eze. Cunha. Neil Kagers, just wanted to say thanks, James, for the great content. And folks, to smash a like. Thank you. Smash a like. Elron Cupboard says Murphy to Rogers, Eze to Bowen, KDB to Palmer, or roll and have 2 free transfers next week. Do you need to do all of these? I don't know if they're a collective. Murphy to Rogers alike, Eze to Bowen alike, KDB to Palmer alike. Chris L says, overall 432. Woo, humble brag. Big clap for Chris. Thinking of going without Watkins, so I have 2 free transfers in 38. Isak and Vissa up top. Mateta on the bench. Is this a mistake? Would mean having to sell Isak, otherwise get Watkins, mate. Jordan says, Haaland and Sarr to Watkins and Palmer from -4. And captain Palmer chasing mini league. Again, chasing the mini league. What do you want to sell Haaland for? Ben Thomas says, hi James, Kivior versus Konsa and bench one of Elanka. It's like the most powerful number 9 on the planet. I don't get it. Ben Thomas says, hi James, Kivior versus Konsa and bench one of Elanga, Rogers or Isak. Elanga. I'd play Kivior on top of that. John Egil Johansson, confidence level on Sarr Eze mids to start. Bulls matchup is okay on the face of it. Consider moving Sarr onto Rogers, Asensio, Enzo. Alternatively, roll with 2 transfer 38. I mean, to buy Rogers, I'd be all over that. I would say Eze is more likely to start than Sarr. At the moment, I've got them both predicted to start on Tuesday. A lot of it's going to depend on how long the game is tomorrow and how it goes as well. Neil B says, afternoon James, hope you're well. Thinking about taking a -4 to take out Isak and Pep to bring in Watkins and Potter. 7.9k, 13 points outside of 5k would be my first top 10 5k or just one for free. I wouldn't bother taking Pep out. Think of it like this, right? What do we think Pep's going to be this week? Okay, 2-0 against Bournemouth is what I've got predicted. What's that? That's a 10-pointer, is it? Okay. Potter wins against Forest. I've got 2-1 as the prediction. What's that? 18 points. And you've taken a -4 off that. You've gained 4 points. I wouldn't bother shifting that for the -4 on Pep unless it's got to be part of some sort of value thing. Yeah, if it has, fine. But bro, Watkins, mate. Safe to Dean. Are your benching dilemmas in any way influenced by your opposite bias, not rating Spurs? I mean, I've got Ezri Konsa quite low. Like, I've got him below Saliba, Collins, Munoz, Vardiol. So not. I wouldn't bench any Villa. You're not going to bench a Villa attacker this way, are you? Surely. So I don't quite understand that element of the question, but thank you. TBG says, can you please summarize the team news? I summarize the team news. I summarize wishes and hopes to see
Mikey Moore, Luca Williams, Barnett, Demola Ajay, Kalamola Sessi, Sergio Reguilon, Anthony Kinski, Ben Davis, Kevin Danso, Archie Gray all start for Tottenham tonight. That's what I summon. And I hope that Watkins blanks after that as well. CM 12k overall says, listen, it's been invested in so much now that if he does blank, I'm blanking with everybody else, isn't he? 12k overall, either benching Salah for Ilanga, no, or roll for 2-3 next week, or sell Salah for Palmer, no. Who do you reckon? Chasing a 50-point gap in mini league. Okay, right. If you're chasing 50 points, I kind of get it. So Salah to Palmer, I guess. Kieran Murphy says, hi James, would you rather have Asensio over Sarr this week? Yeah, all day long. But that would mean can't get Evan Nilsson over Wood next week. Yeah, that's all right. Duarte Marquez, and it's probably not Dirty, is it? Duarte, I think. Sorry. Is Vardy worth it over Watkins? Probably. What do you think I'm going to say? Listen, I might be a lot of things, but I'm quite consistent. Cole Sliffer says, hi James, do you think Pickford plays 38 or misses it to watch Sunderland in the playoff final? Have a great week. Kickoff's 1 o'clock, isn't it? And the Premier League games kick off at 4. So, I mean, he's a goalkeeper. I reckon he still watches it, mate, and plays. I mean, he watches it and plays. Could you imagine as well? He's going to be at Newcastle, right? So, Jordan Pickford, he's not going to want to miss out the chance on bantering the Newcastle fans that Sunderland have been promoted, mate. He ain't going to get you fuck all next week, let's be honest anyway. Next up is M. Santiago, Captain Mo, Bumo, Marmouche. Captaincy, you will see rotating my correct score predictions to the left of me. You'll find your preference there. Jordan says, on assistant manager, switch Nuno to Potter or Hurts to Potter is my preference. Charles Dude 22, hi James, would you take -4, Isak and Star to Vissa and Bowen? Not sure I would. 3, yes. -4, not sure. Don't know. That's a close one, that. No, I don't. For -4, I don't think I would, you know. I don't think so. Hitoka Achumi says, Bradley minutes 70. Aku says, good evening, James. My mini league chaser is going to bring Watkins for Mateta. So should I keep Isak or take Watkins for Isak? I think I will do it. Right. Thanks for answering the question, then tell me what you're going to do anyway. It's the penultimate stream of the season, guys. Kel Lupton says, Vardy and KDB in for Isak and Elanga for a -4. I'm chasing mini league rivals. Would you do this? No, I would not buy KDB at this moment, mate. Curry says, Salah or KDB to Palmer for a -4. I've been cleared up. I personally would keep Mo. FPL Economist says, Evan Nilsson +4 or Asensio. We're talking about taking a hit for Asensio here, and is this just a 1 week question? Also, with Evan Nilsson, that better for you for next week, I would think. Factor that in. So Evan Nilsson. 11 Iron Ross Kenny says, front three currently is Wood, Visser, Isak, blocked out of Watkins. Would you do Isak to Vardy? Mine, unblock yourself off of Watkins. Would you do Isak to Vardy -4 and just third bench Vardy next week as I have cover up the pod? I wouldn't take -4 for a Leicester forward over the best striker in the league for 1 game week, irrespective of the opponents. Abdallah Al-Midfar says, hi James, start 1 Cunha or Eze. Cunha. Eric says, start Isak or Murphy. Isak. Kofcon says, bench Wood or Sarr. Bench Sarr. Daniel Mackey. We are 12 minutes from deadline, by the way, guys. Let's think about getting ourselves locked in. Daniel Mackey says, hi James, I have my free hit and I'm using it tonight. Want to go all in on Chelsea Villa. What players should I punt in after a horrible season? I definitely want Vardy. All right, let's give you a free hit team, nice and quick. Jordan Pickford in goal, Matty Cash, Josko Vardy on Mock, Cucurella, Palmer, Bumo, Bowen, Rogers, Watkins, Haaland, Vardy. I bet you can afford that as well. Josh McDonald says, who to take out, Wood or Isak to what? By the way, I know you can because I did that on the stream for my patrons earlier in the week. Josh McDonald says, who to take out, Wood or Isak to Watkins? I'd want Isak next week on that. I'd take out Wood. J. Broski says, all right, kid. Debating Mo out for Palmer -4 just because I'm bored. Won't be capping Mo last game week, as will be on Isak if fit. Hope you well and good luck Wednesday, Broski. Thank you. No from me, obviously, but if you're bored, brother, do something that makes you happy at this stage of the season, mate. Menendez says, I think the issue here is everyone rushes in, starts to drop questions in before you started talking. So all the Watkins stuff was posted before you said the disclaimer. But people could delete their questions, Meninda. They could. Oh, yeah, James covered that. I'll delete it. It'll make for a better stream. People are only interested in their own thing, aren't they? Sam says, hi, James. Would you do Salah to Saka in order to fund Watkins captain? Haaland is captain currently. Are you chasing, Sam? If so, you'll know what the answer is. Otherwise, go on then. KP says, hi, James. Just jumped on now, so apologies if I missed this. I have plenty in the bank. Free hit 38. Palmer for Murphy or Watkins for Isak. Watkins. Lewis Conley says, hi, James. Where would you put Mateta on the bench in dilemmas, and would you start him or Cunha? I'd start Cunha. I think there's a strong possibility that Mateta doesn't start, so I would arguably have him around Evan Nilsson level this week on the bench in dilemmas. Probably below Sarr. That's the most obvious one if they want to change, right? Is Nketiah plays. That's the most obvious one. It's not to say it will be, but that feels the most obvious one. D.80 says, Livramento, Nico Williams, Milenkovic. Choose one for me, please. I usually go Milenkovic for set piece threat, but Williams seems quite attacking lately. This is one to start, yeah? So, listen, if you go Milenkovic every week and then you don't go him this week, you know what happens, right? I'd go Milenkovic. Tommaso Salvadori says, hi, James, bench 1. Vissa, Rogers, KDB, Wood. Christ on a stick. Sean Bruce says, afternoon, James. Hope you well. I have your front 8, but De Bruyne instead of Elanga. Who would you bench? I wouldn't. If I owned De Bruyne, I would maybe chance him over Cunha. Yeah, I would probably. Because I think there's a chance, as I keep saying, I think there's a chance Cunha doesn't play either. Felix Hops says, hi, James. This will probably have been talked about, but currently benching Isak, Cunha, Eze, KDB, bench instead. All on the bench in dilemmas, mate. Yeah, all of them. Theo2303, thinking of rolling since I have Watkins cap. Is Palmer for KDB for free worth it? Chasing top 10k. Yeah, I don't mind it, mate. Gregors says, the lap punt, yes or no, instead of Vardy. I keep talking him up every week on our Patreon podcast on a Friday, and he keeps fucking not delivering. I've got him top of my ticker over the last two. But I also don't think we quite know if he's 100% fit as well. And there's rumours that like his entourage is going to be at Stamford Bridge tonight and stuff. Possibly speaking to Chelsea and United potentially. A no from me. Gary Neal says, hi, James. Salah or Marmouche? Thanks for what? Start? Mo. AG, as in Salah, as in Mo Salah, not Mo Moosh, just in case there's confusion. AG29 says, hi, James. Thoughts on Jackson missing on Chelsea attack? Yeah, I concluded that the most likely thing they'll do is bring James Augusto in, move Caicedo, essentially push Enzo Fernandez forward. Then they can do that with kind of Palmer and Enzo Fernandez 10-9 hybrids, keep the two wide players, or bring Neto off a flank, and it might even mean moving Palmer in wide. Or it could well be that Gusto plays over James and they play him as kind of a real kind of out-and-out up-and-down winger and just sacrifice a little bit in terms of pressing out from that side. Possibility. I know United only play with one on that side. There's a few different things they can do. It's not good. I said that on Monday. Jackson missing is not good. Doesn't mean a Palmer or whatever can't still do well. And there are a few different things that they can do. Plus, I mean, ultimately, where are Manchester United at tonight? Simon Bibby, my Newcastle correspondent, in says, hi, bud. I need to get Watkins in to block my dad in our Bibby mini league. Do it for Isak for free or Marmouche and Saliba to Tino and bench him -4. Tino's a certain one that probably makes you better for -4. Sorry, for Gameweek 38. But again, I'd rather you probably... Saliba's good for 38, isn't he? You don't want to sell Isak, but that's probably the answer, isn't it? Rob H says, evening, James. How many minutes do you think Bruno Fernandes gets tonight? I just think, just for shits and giggles, about 98. I'm I'm opening this one. I don't want it. I don't, Bruno, rat face. I don't want you to get badly injured, mate. Just the chance of the thing is with Bruno, I mean, his it's amazing. He's basically never got injured since joining the club. He's incredible. I think he starts, personally. We'll find out soon. It is 6 minutes of the deadline, guys. Please do make sure you're getting those teams locked in. A reminder for our patrons, if there is any info going around, I'm not anticipating any, please do drop me a tag on Slack, but I wouldn't be expecting, I don't think much is going to be relevant for fantasy from the Villa team. I wouldn't expect the Tottenham team to get leaked before deadline personally, but I will check a few sources. Next up, I have to remember now, is Kel Lupton. Which combo do you prefer for this game week? Isak and Elanga versus Vardy and KDB. Second one. I feel I may be letting nostalgia get the better of me here, but I prefer option 2, but it would be from -4. And now prefer option 1. Tommaso Salvadori says, hi James, bench 1. Vissa, Rogers, KDB, Wood. Matos says, hi James, start João Pedro or Sarr. Well done for keeping on João Pedro. Does he come straight back in? Sorry, I was reading something. It's not relevant. It was Tottenham related, and that just hugely distracts me. João Pedro, I'd play. United Lays says, hi James, playing Martinez, Vardy or Munoz. Would you bench Saliba or Colwell? Close. I feel the likelihood of a Chelsea clean sheet is slightly higher. But I also think a Saliba haul is maybe slightly higher. Play Colwell, I think. Tough that. Adam, you know I don't like benching Arsenal defenders. Don't like it. And I've done it myself, by the way, this week, but it felt a bit more obvious with mine, I think. Collins is really capable of that haul, more so than a Colwell. Adam Bailey says, hi James, bench Sade, Rogers, Cunha or Salah. Cunha. Jack Prue says, start Visser or Rogers. You've tried me, but yeah, Visser still. Just about, I think. Mind you, I'm just looking at, I've got Rogers 6th and Visser 7th on the captaincy. Let me sell it to you like this, mate. I've got them 6th and 7th on the captaincy. So guess what the answer is? Somebody else. Pepsi says, hi James, who would you play? Sade or KDB? Thanks for the season's content. I would play Sade, mate. Sorry. It's a terrible time to send me a question like that. Just checking we ain't got anything on terms of messages. Again, just checking for a few bits in cases. Watkins starts apparently. Well, it's fucking revolutionary information there, mate. That's going to change the game for tonight, and it might get some different questions. Ahmed, hi James. Which would you do? Mateta to Watkins. Yeah, that one next. I can't bother to read the best. Sorry, mate. Good luck. Where are we? Where? Gone old Delia Smith now. Moonman, cheers from Canada, James. Kirkes or Kivior. Thanks for the great. Got to be Kivior with the fixtures, isn't it? Andrew Nellis says, hi James. Play Sarr or Cunha. Alternative move Sarr to Saka for free and bench Cunha up the top. I don't mind that. Head of the game on Saka. Although the Andy Martin theory of Arsenal clinching top 5 this week, and then, Saka's got a bit of a niggle and he can't go and play for England. Yeah, leave it. Zubin says, hey James, well, the Cunha transfer was a bust and somewhat lucky. Anyway, play 2 from Cunha, Burn, Nico Williams, thoughts. Cunha and Nico Williams would burn away to Arsenal. It's not exactly. Lewis Lee says, hi James, hope you're well. Would you start Evan Nilsson or Murphy this week? The 9, Evan Nilsson. Alden Björk says, evening James, who for first on the bench, VVD or Sarr? Attacking player, mate. El Sabari, Isak Watkins, yeah, and Salah Saka triple count next week, yeah, or roll then Vardy or first option. DTAF, thanks for your answer, James. I'm going Evan Nelson a week early. Unsure on Forest and Chris Wood. It's also conflicting as I plan to move Arsenal to par -4, which you weren't aware of. Good luck, FPL economist Mike Issue.
Is there a mic issue? I'm not aware if there is. Apologies. Maybe turn the volume up, possibly. Marv FPL says, Sood is messed up, keeps cutting out. Oh, sound is messed up, keeps cutting out, does it? Apologies. FPL Matty win a lot. Buffy needs some help, James. Can you please suggest some players for him as his first season? Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. Watkins is not a bad bet for this week. FPL Marshall says, hey James, would you bench boost with Ariola, Eze, Kanate and Williams? Yeah, yeah, it's probably going to be better than next week, mate. Yin Kande says, hi James, I'm chasing in mini league. Would you consider Salah to Haaland for -4? I'm selling Isak to Watkins. Yeah. I mean, you about the first one to say I'm chasing, I want to buy Haaland. I'm going to say, yeah, cool, wicked. Sick Ball FC, will you do KDB to Palmer for -4? I wouldn't. Daniel Mackey. Sorry if we're having a bit of sound problems, guys. Andrew Sands, evening stud. Simply can't resist a Haaland capsule this game with massive roll of dice, but the upside, yeah, could be. And I think that is deadline, guys. Apologies to you that I didn't get through in the questions. I did my best. If you didn't know, I think Watkins is the best captaincy this week. I think probably should have bought him. Probably. Subject to what you're all doing. If anybody's got any FPL questions, non-FPL questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat and I'll cover them off for 15 minutes or so. I'll stick around for the Villa Tottenham team lineup. It should be interesting. Otherwise, smash a like, hit the sub button. The deadline stream is scheduled to go ahead at 1:30 next Sunday, ahead of game week 38. It will end promptly if it does go ahead at 2:30 because I need to get to White Hart Lane for the 4 p.m. kickoff. There is a small chance that it won't happen because if there's a massive party happening on Tottenham High Road, I'm going. Sorry, not sorry. However, I have done 37 deadline streams this season, which feels remarkable with the amount of away games I've gone to. Clearly, I'm not going to Villa Park tonight because I've not completely lost all of my sanity. So I would like to do the last one, but I can't promise it. Content next week's going to look a bit different because I'm going to Bilbao on Monday morning. On Monday, you will have the game review podcast with myself and such, which we're recording Sunday night. Tuesday, Clash of Correspondents, Tottenham Hotspur versus Manchester United with Ricky Saunders and Gary Robinson. Those two are then joining me again on Wednesday for a Europa League quiz. Thursday, there is no content. Friday, Suj will be back with me. Mini game review, talk about the games Monday and Tuesday and Europa League final. Saturday, fan view with Gary Mantle, our Chelsea correspondent, discussing the final day of the season, Chelsea's top 5 push if it isn't wrapped up. And of course, Chelsea have their own European final the following Wednesday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl, and the content continues there this week as well. Nico's Corner on Monday, got a quiz with Alex Trembath out on Tuesday, differential show Friday, Ask James next Saturday for patrons. That's available from basic tier plus, and for the advanced tier patrons there will also be lots of stuff both written and filmed from Bilbao. That's it. That's the content for next week. I can't say any more than that because my patrons need to be the first to know the next bits. But it's only good news, patrons. There's nothing to worry about. If you can support the show, would like to support the show, can afford to support the show, help keep the lights on, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Do it because you want access to the additional content, which, yes, we'll be continuing throughout the majority of the summer. And also, yeah, this shit's free, isn't it? Yeah. No ads, by the way. Oh, too many ads in your videos. No ads. £3 a month. Boom. And they get released early as well. Right. Let's do some non-FPL stuff. It is 6:03 p.m. Why is this person tagging me that? Weird. Thank you, Adaski. You might just add something cut out for a moment or so. Apologies. It happens, internet. Anyone got a Sky Q box that just died on them last night? Yeah. Sean says, hi James, non-FPL United fan here. Heading over next week, my 4th European final of 42nd Euro away. Wow, congrats, mate. It's been my most stressful, absolute chaos. What's your route there and how have you found it? So we're going Gatwick to Madrid and then Madrid to Bilbao. Their flights connecting. That's on Monday, and then the day after the game, we're flying back to Lisbon and then on to Heathrow. That's it. Accommodation has been booked for a long time, which was fully refundable if we didn't make the final. Flights were sorted after the first leg of the semi-final, with an insurance bet on Bodo Glimt in case we lost, basically. I wish you luck, Sean. I wish you safe travel. Good luck. I'm mainly going to be with Tottenham people on the Wednesday, but I might maybe be somewhere on the Tuesday, maybe, depending on when you're out there on that. Come and say hello if you see us. Don't be shy. DTAF says non-FPL. Before Bruno signed for United, Spurs were linked heavily. That's true. In a parallel universe, had he signed for Spurs, how do you think the fortunes of Bruno and the two teams would have differed, if at all? I think if Bruno Fernandes had signed for Tottenham, Bruno Fernandes would now be playing for Barcelona. There you go. It would be easy to think Tottenham certainly would have done better with Bruno Fernandes, but actually at the point that Tottenham would have signed Bruno Fernandes, Mourinho was in charge still. Then it was a different manager. Then there was a successful end to the 21-22 season with Conte. I imagine in the summer of 2023, he'd have gone, what is this basket case football club, and left. It is, and please don't take this as a criticism because I think Bruno's been very loyal to Manchester United. It is easier to be loyal to the biggest club in the country than it is to Tottenham. And I think at the end of the 22-23 season, a little bit like with Harry, you'd have been like, yeah, go, mate. But yeah, I mean, Fernandes and Kane together with, I mean, think of Fernandes even just feeding Son back in his prime. It would have been good, no doubt. So would Tottenham been better with Bruno Fernandes? Yeah, absolutely. He's an absolutely brilliant footballer. And I'm pretty sure, by the way, no matter what happens on Wednesday, I'm pretty sure Fernandes will still be with United next week. I think he feels a real sense of loyalty to wanting to get that right there now. Jamie Malero says Vardy is the best captain. Last match for the club. He's on 99 goals for the club. His teammates can't let him down on a day like this. James, I hate to tell you that your stats are wrong. Stagger13 says, hi, Jay. He's on 199, mate. I'm being pedantic. Stagger13 says, hi, James. If Ange is sacked, do you think there will be changes at the top as well? We think so, yeah. I mean, when you say at the top, like the chairman, no. But within the all the other areas of the club, yeah, we think there's every chance that Paratici's coming back now. So I think either way, there's going to be some changes. Big Chief says, it's time for Potter's spell. Daniel Clayton says, evening, James. What are your thoughts on questions that ask you for your thoughts on FPL dilemmas, please? What are your thoughts on questions that ask you for your thoughts on FPL dilemmas, please? I'm not sure I understand the question, Daniel. Can you pop it in again and I'll cover it at the end, like what you're trying to say? What are my thoughts on questions that ask for your thoughts on FPL dilemmas? What? Unless I'm reading that wrong, mate, it's generally what this is for, is FPL questions. Not this bit now, but generally speaking, that's what the stream's for. So if I hated it that much, I wouldn't do it. Alex Trembar says, non-FPL question. James, what has been your favourite Spurs away trip overseas in terms of the place, not the football? Place. I think Madrid, probably. I think so. Trying to think in my head. Yeah, I think there's influence though. Like the first time I went to Madrid was there a couple of days, and I also I'd had spent 4 days in Madrid, non-football reasons, a few years earlier as well. So very familiar with Madrid. Whereas certain places might have been more of a kind of a in and out job. The scene of Amsterdam is, by the canals and stuff, so proper iconic, and that, for obvious reasons, sticks more. But I don't want to say Amsterdam for that reasons. I'm going to say Madrid. AG, I tell you, was great. Actually, I'm telling a fucking lie, Alex. I forgot. Brilliant city is Prague. Prague was cold. Valentine's Day, 2008. That was my first European trip. Prague is a brilliant city. AG29 says, thoughts on Ivan Toney's chance on being called up to Tuchel's list? Unlikely. I think Nico said to me earlier, has he won the Asian Champions League or something? I mean, I wouldn't have a clue. out of sight, out of mind. Can't comment on him. I haven't watched him this year. Static says non-FPL. Is John Cena the GOAT in your opinion? No. I think we are influenced by our first ones with things, and I think this is almost relatable to football as well. We are influenced by our first people that we thought were the best, I think. So for me, that would be people like The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Neither of them got the kind of titles that John got. Then you look at what like Stone Cold and The Rock did in terms of the elevation of kind of this superstardom ideal. I think for getting the most out of what was available in terms of the resources or tools of what they were, I think John Cena's right up there. But I would say, and he's not my favourite, but I think what he got out of himself, Austin, the reaction to him was madness. The GOAT for me is Taker in terms of the longevity. Even you listen to the way other people speak about him, etc. I think it's him. And that was when I was like 7, 8 and got into it. I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is incredible. That's the guy I want to be. I'm just going to be about 2 feet shorter than you. I was gutted. I was meant to meet him at a signing in Wood Green when I was a kid. True story. Him and Paul Bearer were meant to be doing a signing and he didn't show, the bastard. But I did get the pleasure of meeting the sadly passed Kurt Hennig instead, Mr. Perfect. Sir Matt Bugsby says, hello James, bit of talking tactics. Would a strike partnership of either Son or Brennan with Solanke bring the best out of them? On a related note, why have managers become so rigid with systems? Fear a little bit. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with the statement though in terms of rigid. Are we less fluid now? Maybe. Might be an influence. I watch someone like Tottenham and I think our players can end up in all sorts of positions, not necessarily for good reasons, by the way. Son might end up playing with Solanke through the middle on Wednesday. Don't like him now. I've said a few times I think Brennan Johnson might end up being a centre forward. Not keen. Not keen. I said what I would do on Wednesday. I don't think it's what Ange will do. And I don't think tonight's going to tell us whatever we see with this team lineup. Howard Green says, happy Saturday from Perth, West Australia. Enjoy Bilbao. Good luck to all for the penultimate round. Thank you. Russell Baker says, if Chelsea Newcastle qualify and Chelsea win UCL, there is only 2 Europa left. And if Man City win, is it down to 7th? If Palace win, is it only down to 6th? Is that correct? Fuck it, right. I'll explain this much easier for you, mate. Right, so... Right, if Palace win the Cup, they go in the Europa League. 8th no longer gets a Conference League place. If Man City win the FA Cup, 8th gets a Conference League place. Bosh, done. Chelsea will go into the Champions League if they finish top 5. If they don't, they'll go in Europa League. Chelsea's reward for winning the Conference League is a Europa League place, not a Champions League place. If Chelsea finish 5th, they'll obviously go in the Champions League. It doesn't create anything extra. The only thing that's different, what I understand, is if Chelsea finish 7th and win the Conference League, then there's no Conference League place. I think it's if Chelsea finish 7th and Palace win the Cup, there's no Conference League place. So Chelsea would have been the Conference League place by virtue of finishing 7th because Palace win the Cup. But because they win the Conference League, they jump to the Europa League. And then you have 3 teams in Europa and none in the Conference League. I think that was the easiest way to explain it. Addy Tour says, definitely a Sky problem with Skybox. That's 3 people I know is cut out. There were, to be honest, Addy, it was the majority of the country last night. Their Skyboxes went. John says, thank you, James. You're very welcome. Vindaloo says, hi, James. A few rumours at West Brom that we're after Ryan Mason for manager. Have you heard anything? Cheers. Yes, I have heard that rumour about Ryan Mason. Yes, I have heard that. That's all I've heard. I can't say anything about it, but I have heard that mentioned as well. Russell Baker says, if Chelsea don't make it, it as you were. I presume. Hang on. I presume this in relation to your question, Russell, which I think I've already answered. Elron Cupboard, did you go to SummerSlam 92? No. That was the first WWE event I ever watched. Because we just got Sky, and that was just after the Premier League had started, and SummerSlam that was the first bit of wrestling I ever watched, was SummerSlam 92. So you could understand why I got into it after that. Steve Elbow says, I saw Undertaker in a rock nightclub in Birmingham. He was just randomly there as a punter when they were on tour. Mental. Russell says, enjoy your trip. Hope you win it. Thank you, Russell. Nicola Torco, hey James, hope you're doing well. Got a Spurs question for you. What's the one sign that Spurs made that got you genuinely excited and actually lived up to the hype? Enjoy your vacation. Actually lived up to the hype. Modric, I suppose. Jan Vertonghen, maybe another one. Felt like a big deal when we got him because Ledley was finishing. Musa. Jermaine Defoe. There's been loads, really. I think you feel when transferred, easier to. Redbroth I thought was going to be great, and he wasn't. There's others like that as well. But there's been plenty of good ones. There's none recently, really, I would say. You look at what Son's got out of his Tottenham career, and actually it wasn't expected to be a lot. It was kind of, well, he's going to be a backup attacker, right? It's kind of what we thought. I mean, 20 million, that's near enough the best 20 million Tottenham have ever spent, despite some of my criticism of him, and I desperately want him to win it on Wednesday. He does deserve it. So do I as well, though. Heather says, good luck for the game, James. Cheers for the content. Stevie Gregson saying Klinsman. D-Taff says, thanks, James, for your answers. Super content. I could pick your footballing brain for hours. There'll be more opportunities to do that, mate. Elron Cupboard says, should Wolves get a load of Portuguese lads in the summer? Sure, why not? Have a holiday with it. Nicholas says, fair. Zem says, Van der Vaart. Yeah, Rafa was exciting when that dropped on deadline day. I'm not going to cover any more, guys. I'm just going to do the teams before we finish. I'll start with my team. Which Tottenham haven't posted yet. You know what it is? It's the social media's guy has gone, who? I don't think it's going to quite be like that. The team should be in, isn't it? Am I going mad? Hour and 15 before kickoff. Let's see if we've got the Villa team. So Villa, it's Maatsen at left back, Pau Torres centre back, Martinez Cash Contra, obviously. The rest exactly what you'd have expected. So McGinn, Kamara, Nana, Asensio, Rogers, Watkins. Yeah, Watkins playing unbelievably. Marlon, Bailey, Barkley, interestingly. Villa's only attacking subs really is 5 defenders on the bench, really. Disasai, Bogard, Dean, Garcia, and Mings. One of Watkins, Rogers, at least you would think he's getting the 90 minutes tonight. Is this Tottenham team in? Here we go. Kinski, Spence, Danso, Davis, Region, Sarr, Gray, Odebear, Mikey Moore, Matisse Tell, Heung-min Son. Romero and Van der Ven not in the squad. Destiny Doggy not in the squad. Bentancur, Brennan Johnson, Richarlison, Solanke all subs. Dante Casanova, who's multifunctional player, is a sub. Kalamola Sessi, who's a central midfield player, is a sub. Okay. Yeah, I'm alright with that. I mean, the closer it got, the more truthfully I thought I don't want the goalkeeper or the back four to play. That was the big one for me. You'd have to look at that team and think that Captain Watkins is the right decision, irrespective of the outcome that may happen. If I'd have told you that was the team, you'd go, Christ on a stick. And I really think that the team was going to be much stronger earlier in the week. And I really think that Kulusevski injury has spooked the whole football club. So, fine. I would say from that, I mean, Jed could start the final, particularly if he moves Porro's position. Sarr might start the final. Son might start the final. Odebear or Tell might start the final. The rest won't. No. I'm fine with that. I couldn't really give a shit. But I want us to win. I want us to win because I'm just tired of losing. And it'd be amazing if these guys could pull off a result tonight. But yeah, don't really care. Yeah, Zem says Spurs admin doesn't want to post it. So Matt says Bruno would have stayed at Spurs because Eriksen would have gone to Barcelona. Eriksen was already gone, mate. It was already gone. Mr. Feeper saying Villa teams predicted Vindaloo. Thanks, mate. Good luck. Bill Bauer, Lamici, Weldy, Spurs backline. Steve Elbow's dramatic pause. yeah. Jack Flash. Oh, big mistake not going Watkins then. It became clear when Ange spoke last night. Honestly, I said this on the team news stream I did for our patrons earlier. I ended up predicting 2 changes to the Tottenham team that played Crystal Palace. And when I put the team together on Wednesday, I had 9. I think it was going to be a strong team. And then the Kulusevski injury spooked. A lot of the feedback from fans was like, just sack it off. And then Ange's comments last night was like, okay, yeah, we're going weak. John says, tried getting you to laugh before deadline saying Watkins' wife is having a baby. Is she? Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your week. It's a long one, so tonight doesn't go great. Then don't stress about it. If you're a City or Palace fan, particularly good luck in the FA Cup final. If your team's trying to achieve something, good luck. If you support a lower league team that's got an important game this weekend, good luck. Please smash the like, hit the sub button, support the show on Patreon if you can. Have a great weekend, everyone. Suj will be with me for the Game Review podcast on Monday. But when you listen to it, I'll have already left. Can you, Spurs?